Our keynote speaker actually needs no introduction. Yukihiro Matsumoto, affectionately known to us as Mats, is the creator and the steward of the Ruby programming language. He has pre-recorded his keynote and a short Q&A answering some of your questions. Please enjoy.
Hello, this is Matt, the creator of Ruby language and a person who triggered everything in this conference. Today, I'm going to talk about the lessons from the past as a keynote. Some may know I love programming language. The programming language in general is my kind of life work for me. And from that love, I created my own programming language, and then it gradually became Ruby. And since my love and motivation, so that I devoted so much to the developing the language, then the language would change everything about my life and the adult life, and partially the Ruby changed the world. And so you may call me the language geek. Then I'll tell you a little bit about the programming language trivia, and then I tell you about the lessons I have learned through this programming language and the experience from Ruby development. Okay, the first question is, what is the first programming language? Some may say the first programming language in the world is Fortran.
Fortran, contracción del inglés Formula Translating, traducción de fórmulas. En 1953, John W. Backus dio una propuesta a sus superiores en IBM, desarrollar una alternativa más práctica al lenguaje ensamblador para programar el computador central. IBM 704 y a mediados de 1954 fue terminada la especificación del primer borrador,
which developed in 1954. But in reality, there was a programming language beforehand, predates the Fortran, which is Plan Calcul. Plan Calcul was a programming language designed by the German engineer, the Konrad Zuse. I may pronounce wrong, but who invented the very ancient computer named Z-Drive. And he found out that for those kind of computers, the human brain are too limited to express the idea in binary. So he come up with the idea of the programming language. Actually, at that time in 1942, there was no term for programs or software for the computers. The programs was to the like a program in the theater or something. But he invented the term plan calcul. It is a plan for the calculation or something like that. And it found out in the language plan calcul, we had assignments, if statements, loops, and structures, subroutines, arrays, assertions, exceptions, and even goal-directed execution. This is kind of modern for the programming language invented in 1942. It is kind of surprising. It is far more advanced than Fortran. But since the concept of the language was too advanced to the age, so that it was not accepted by the world. Actually, Plan Calcul was lost in history. No one knew the language Plan Calcul for a long time. And then no one knew the Plan Calcul. In 1992 to 1995, the engineer Konrad Zuse left some kind of the design memo, but the full spec of the language was first published in 1972, much later. Then at that time, there no implementation available. Until 1998, the first compiler for the Plan Calcul was implemented in 1998, which is even newer than Ruby programming language. From this fact, we can learn the idea itself is not enough, so that we need to have some kind of useful implementation to prove the idea, and then persuade the others about the idea. So that we need implementation. And then any systems should grow with users. The Ruby was first created in 1993, 30 years ago, and then first published in 1995. But this 30 years, it's not my work. The community works together to make Ruby better programming language, and that kind of the community effort truly make Ruby. Yeah, we can learn the idea about the community is the key for the success. Okay, next question. What is the simplest programming language? Syntactically. There are so many simple programming languages, but I named Lisp, Forth, and APL, all invented in 1960s. Non-popular now, but partly because if the programming language simplicity is not the first goal, the inventor, the creator of the programming language, Larry Wall, once said, if a language is simple, our software will be more complex because total amount of complexity is constant. Actually, I lost the English version of the programming Perl, so that this is not the word-to-word quote, but he said something like that. So that we can learn simple, at least for the programming language. Being simple is not always best, since human mind is complex, and we need to follow a mental model. So we have to struggle with the complex, the tasks and complex issues. Then the software will reflect that kind of the complexity. So that programming language should help that to address that kind of complexity. The other notable programming language is the PL1, which is the combination of the Fortran and the COBOL. In 1970s, the Fortran and the COBOL was so popular, and then someone got the idea of, okay, if we have the Fortran for scientific computing, and then the COBOL for the office software, the business software. So if we combine those two programming languages. So that would be nice. And then they tried. And then the result is we still have many programming language. Actually, we still have many softwares written in Fortran, especially in the scientific field, academia. And then we still have a COBOL software in, say, the big business company or banks. And then, yeah, the ratio is getting lower and lower, but we still have the written in those two programming language. But PL1 is nearly abandoned. The other example is Ada, named after the first programmer, the Ada Lovelace. In the Department of Defense in the United States decided so that we have a lot of systems from controlling the the fighters and the battleships or missiles and radars and a lot of systems, and then they had a lot of programming language for each systems. But if we can write those variety of software in one programming language, we can reduce the burden of learning new programming language. So they designed the one true programming language, and named that language Ada. But Ada is still used in the Department of Defense, as far as I've heard. but still, the the majority of the software developer do not know about anything about Ada programming language. So because we have the tendency of the creeping featureism, so that we have many requests from users, and we are eager to answer those requests, and then we have the tendency, we see the tendency of the systems will easily grow big until too big to understand. So that only our ability, a limitation of our brain to handle the complexity is the limitation of the software complexity. The complexity is our enemy, and that means the bigger is not always being bigger, not always the better. Okay, this is second lesson. Okay, third lesson from the language Perl. You may not know, but 20-something years ago, the Perl was the king of programming language. And Perl 1.0 was released in 1986 or maybe 87 or somewhere around that. And then Perl 5.0 was released in 1993 when the Ruby was first developed, start development. And then and at that time, the Perl was the king. So that I borrowed many ideas from Perl at the beginning of the design of programming Ruby. And then 30 years later, now, what version do you expect the Perl is? It is Perl 5.38. So that this 30 years, no major version released. And the Perl has changed very slightly. Okay, they had many, enhancement and improvement in the language, but the basic structure is same. So, they worried. Actually, they worried about that kind of, stability and stasis in the community. So the year 2000, in the Perl conference, in the keynote of the creator Larry Wall, and he said we are bored, and in Perl community, in the Perl conferences, someone in the core team said we're unless we can come up with something that will excite the community because everyone's getting bored and going off and doing other things. Yeah. And then they started new project to remove the historical word. So that they started correcting the something named the RFC, request for comment. And they received 361 RFCs. And then the creator, Larry Wall, read them all and investigate them all and designed new version of programming language. And then he wrote some kind of the design description of the language named Apocalypse and named his new language Perl 6. But do you use Perl 6? The Perl 6 does not get popular. And recently, since the Perl 6 was too advanced from Perl 5, and they are too different, so that they are not backward compatible or even forward compatible. And so they abandoned the name Perl 6 and they renamed it to Raku, which sounds like kind of Japanese, but so that we have learned two things from Perl. One is the boring pitfalls. The biggest enemy of boring is the biggest enemy of open source software or any project driven by motivation. Open source software needs to keep moving forward unless the community will, the member of the community will be bored and go away to other programming language. We need to attract the community. That one lesson. The second lesson is second system syndrome. When we recreate the systems like a Perl 6 compared to the Perl 5, we often become too ambitious to solve everything at once. And then that kind of scrap and build approach is a bad idea. Yeah. We should evolve gradually so that unless we've done too much, and then, then system will not attract the community or too big to implement or something like that. Ruby had a similar things. I once followed the Perl 6 idea because in the early 2000s, Perl was too popular and the removing the historical word is the kind of the trend in the programming language. So that in the 2003 RubyConf keynote, I proposed the idea of the Ruby 2, not the Ruby 2 we had, but the Ruby 2 is kind of like a Perl 6. And then because we have Perl 6, they try to recreate the language. And then the Python community was working on the Python 3000, which is gradually, eventually became the Perl 3, Python 3. And then we started corrected the ideas from the community named not the RSFC, but we call it the RCR, which stands for the Ruby Change Request or something like that. And I get many ideas, and then some of them are too ambitious. Some of them are too trivial, but it was very fun. And but I was too lazy to bookkeep those ideas, and eventually I got tired of managing them and gave up the Ruby 2 project. And instead, we keep the current implementation and then replace them part to part. So soon after that, we have released the Ruby 1.9 in 2007, which we replaced the virtual machine, the Yao virtual machine that we currently use, and then we overhauled the string class implementation to support the multilingualization M17N. We support a lot of encoding, including Japanese one, Chinese one, Russian one, Taiwanese, and European ones. And those encoding stuff is implemented in the Ruby 1.9. And the Ruby 1.9 had a gradual change instead of the scrap and build, but still incompatible, especially in the string handling. So we had some kind of the tragedy of the 5+ years of the community split. So some people still keep using the older version Ruby 1.8, and which is compatible to the prior versions. And then the majority of the community and even core teams use the Ruby 1.9, and which is the newer, faster, and more powerful, but they're still slightly incompatible. But I have learned the lessons from this situation, so that which is the compatibility matters. So that we keep compatibility unless absolutely necessary. And then it's much better than the 5+ years of the community split is the tragedy, but it's much less than the 15 years or 30 years of the community split. But why we can have the shorter period of the community split? I think the reason is the new virtual machine. It was 3 to 50 times faster than the previous tree walking interpreter. So the performance heals all sorrows. Then we had the Ruby 2.x. We have introduced the keyword arguments and the refinement and the module prepend, which is module prepend is smaller, but I prefer that method, and it's kind of the performance aspect oriented programming. And then in this period, we had some kind of the end of Rails illusions. This is a hype cycle graph. And then the visibility goes up in, say, 2006, 2007, 2008. And then we were the king of the web application development. But some years later, so that we have the Node.js and then use JavaScript as a backend, or maybe some programming language introduced the static typing, and the popularity of the Ruby is relatively decreased. And I think now we are in the plateau of the productivity, and the following those kind of disappointment, the TOB index.
El índice TIOBE mide la popularidad de los lenguajes de programación.
The drops. We are at the number 7 in the highest, but we now have the 17 or less in the ranking. So the people claim that Ruby is dead, because Ruby gems have less GitHub stars on GitHub, or because Ruby does have static typing, or because Ruby is no longer shiny language. And then Really? The at at least in my opinion, no, of course. Any technologies cannot stay shiny forever. So the Ruby has 30 years of history, and then Rails is almost 20 years old. So the more history, more burden. So the but still we are creating values. The people come and go. So that there's some people come to Ruby and enjoy Ruby programming for some years, and then move to some other programming language and Rust, Go, Java, TypeScript, or whatever. That's okay. That's okay. It's okay as long as we grow. Uh, so the okay audience. Could you raise your hand if you are the first timer in this conference? Yeah, unfortunately, I can't see you right now. But okay, you are new blood. If we see hands raised, we have hope. You know, the if the Ruby community in general, uh, as a whole, is declining, we see no new people in the gathering. But if we see hand of the newcomers, so we have hope. And 2020, we have released Ruby 3.0, and we implemented the real keyword arguments and the pattern matching, JIT compiler, and heap compaction. I think we are at the tipping point. Say, we are in the plateau of productivity in this graph, but this stability is a trap. It might cause boring pitfall, like I said before. The only paranoid can survive. This is the Intel proverbs. So how can we survive? How can we survive? How can we keep Ruby alive for next 30 years? Or even 100 years? Focus on lessons learned from above. From the lessons we have learned, the idea is not enough. Simple is not always best. Bigger not always better. Beware of boring pitfalls and beware of second sister syndrome. I have some goals. The first one is to keep Ruby forever. So that we are not going to add a type declaration to the language, and then no big syntax change is expected, and then no big semantics change is expected. But we need to progress to avoid the boring pitfall. To keep moving forward. We have to keep moving forward. We are going to improve the performance. So, for example, the YJet improved the Rails application performance by 20% or something. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And then the
Shopify es una plataforma de e-commerce que permite a cualquier emprendedor crear y gestionar su negocio.
the other team in the Shopify kind of improve, working on improving the memory management of the Ruby virtual machine, and they trying to make it faster and then reduce more memory. And then those work are supported by Shopify and others, and then I really appreciate that. Still, and we are working on the concurrency as well. We are in the multi-core age, so that to improve the performance of the software, we need to utilize concurrency. Then we have Gil, but still we have Rakuten fibers to improve the performance of the on the multi-core. And then thanks for the cookpad and the stores.
Cookpad es un sitio en línea donde puedes guardar recetas para más tarde, publicar tus creaciones caseras y compartir ideas con una comunidad global de cocineros. ¿Espera qué?
Which are the the employer of the for the Koichi and Mami. And then the other companies helped on those things. And then now, and we are working and encouraging supporting tools like Rubocop, Steep, Sorbet, and a lot more. Because 30 years ago we had no supporting tool. We just have the editors, VI or Emacs, and just write down the software. The only supporting tool was the Ruby mode in Emacs, which I wrote, the original one. But right now we have the VS Code and the code completion, the auto indentation, then the pop-up documents, or the lint, the lot of tools, and then the productivity has been improved a lot by those supporting tools. So that present day, the language productivity is not only determined by the language design, okay, the human or friendly programming language, but those supporting tools those supporting tools are more important. So that we are trying to supporting tools. For example, the Ruby 3.3, which will be introduced, released in next month, will be shipped with the gem named Prism, which is the better parser. Name.
Un parser es un programa o algoritmo que analiza un flujo de entrada, como texto, código o datos, y lo convierte en una estructura interna que puede ser utilizada por el software.
The Ruby has parser, but the other supporting tools has their own parsers, like Rubocop has parsers through the parser gems, and Sorbet has parsers, and Steep has parsers, and a lot of parsers. And then we have parser gems, and the parser gems, Ruby parser gems, and a lot of other parsers. And then they have to re-implement parsers again and again. So that there is need for the parsers that can be used as a library, the universally available parser. So it can be used by the language, it can be used by the tools, it can be by the linters and the many other tools. Okay, and it should be independent from the virtual machine, so that if you are the supporting tool writers, and if you use the parser gems, the whole Ruby binary, whole Ruby virtual machine, the class libraries is come along with the library. It's not ideal. So that the better parser should be independent from the Ruby, the runtime implementation. And then for the supporting tools, they are not the free written Ruby. The compiler just says errors. This is syntax error. But for editors, you have to parse the half-baked Ruby programs in development. So that it should be error tolerant, so that it can handle the Ruby programs that have errors in it. Now, the JRuby, TrueFullRuby, and the Parser Gems and a lot more have already used the Prism Gem. And then Prism Gem itself is implemented by the teams from Shopify, especially Kevin Newton. Thank you. And then Steep and TypeProf static typing without type language, type declaration, and the language change. And then that work is supported by the Square, Cookpad, and stores. And thanks for I appreciate them. I have many things to be done to improve the developer experience. Do you have any idea? If you have idea of the improving supporting tools and improving the language, just tell us. All ideas matters. Unfortunately, for many reasons, like compatibilities and the issue conflict or something like that. So that I might not accept your ideas, but I am interested in all the idea from everyone. Just tell us your idea through the issue tracker, the bugs.rubylang.org, or GitHub issues or whatever. Just tell us. We have Ruby now, and then we want to keep Ruby alive. Your idea, opinion matters. Just come join us. Just come join us. You don't have to be the C expert, C programming language expert, if you're very serious about the future of Ruby. Just tell your opinion. The Ruby community, most precious treasure of Ruby, I think. You are part of the community because you're at the Ruby conference. And community needs new blood. So that we really, we really needs welcome you. And then attract young programmers. To attract young programmers, most important thing is job and money. So that keep Ruby attractive for companies. The Rails claims it is the one-person framework, and Ruby is the Ruby on Rails is optimized to the smaller team, and we are optimized to small starts. And then I'll tell you, you are not Google, so that you don't have to prepare for the future like Google. Do not try to be like Google. The Basecamp is written in Ruby on Rails. Of course, it's led by the DHH himself, and it makes big money. And the DHH is pretty rich. And Shopify is written in Ruby on Rails, and it makes big money. And GitHub is still written in Ruby, I think. Some part is replaced by the TypeScript though. But if you are going to start a new business, new project, new system, do not prepare to be like Google. Just prove your idea upon the platform or language optimized to the smallest teams. And tell your friends the value of the agility. Being agile is more important than being prepared to be Google. The future. I often asked by the people, when is Ruby 4? That's good questions. And we have yearly release. Okay. 2023, we have the Ruby 3.3. And then we plan releasing Ruby 3.4 in 2024. And we are currently keeping the single-digit versions policy. That means that 2029, we might have Ruby 3.9. The next year, 2030, we are out of digits, so that we are going to have the Ruby 4.0. I have random crazy ideas for the future, which is package systems, IoT compiler, steering committee, and the design playground. I will explain one by one. The package systems. We often have the name conflict between versions and the independent gems. And that can be solved by the namespace isolation. But addressing versions and the dependency CL. Version The, actually, my Ruby 2 idea, most of my Ruby 2 ideas was implemented in Ruby 2 on 2.0 and Ruby 3.0, but the the packaging systems, the namespace isolation is the only one things left from my Ruby 2 ideas. So that we will be working on it. The ahead of time compiler is one idea for the future because performance matters, and then if we put our software less dynamic, it will make our software run faster. And then maybe using the profile guided type information so that we can compile, we can do the ahead of time compile much faster. The running fully native code, and then we are thinking the keep we by using some kind of the ahead of time compiler to the we can run the run Ruby as native code, and then but still keep Ruby, unlike Crystal. Crystal is the great programming language, but it is the static type systems, and then it is different. In that sense, we are different. They are different from Ruby. We still need a lot of experiment. And then the other idea is the steering committee. I'm old enough to retire, so that I don't know, maybe in 10 years or 20 years I will be retired. Who will succeed this leadership position, the dictator? Currently I have no idea, but probably we can train our successors, successor candidates about the some kind of the design playground. We are going to have some kind of the fork of Ruby, and then which is fragile, and then they try new ideas, and then maybe they fail, and then but they just drop that failed ideas. Okay, in Ruby, we are not allowed to fail because even in the slightest feature we added, that someone used, so that we cannot remove them. We cannot remove them at all. But in that kind of a playground, we can try to experiment, and feeling the psychological safety for the language design. It will be like a design testbed for the future Ruby language, or maybe the place for the experiments, and then the place to experience about the language design. Then we can train the new generation of the language designers. This is just a vague idea, a big and crazy ideas for the future. But in any way, we have a lot of things to do. So that we will keep moving forward. We will keep moving the improving the language. We will lengthen our stride for the future, and we will create a value as a community. And then come join us so that write great software in Ruby, and they contribute to the Ruby itself, or write gems, write supporting tools, and or maybe write prolix to the C Ruby, J Ruby, Truffle Ruby, or whatever, and then to keep us moving forward, and then to create a bit better future. I think that's the power of love. El poder del amor! The Ruby is no longer one-man project for decades, and we invite you to join us to improve the world better place. Say, and the organizers collected some questions from the audience and the community, so that I picked some of them and they try to answer. The first one is that, do you think we'll ever truly be able to remove the global interpreter lock? This is the good questions, and then this is the very topic of this year's the keynote of the Eurocall this year, and then I've heard in this conference is you might the Eurocall organizer will show you the recording of my Eurocall keynote, and then but in short, the removing the GIL in Ruby community we call it the GVM, global VM lock, and then in theory it is possible, but in practice it is nearly impossible, and we have less motivation to remove it than the Python community because of the web applications. The major battlefield of the Ruby programming language is relatively easier to make concurrency. Like say, we have the Puma, Unicorn, or the Pitchfork, which is the application servers which can handle that kind of the concurrency. So instead of removing the GVL, so that we are providing the raptors and the Fiverr schedulers, and currently we do not have the global virtual machine lock, but the raptor local virtual machine lock. So that if you create the raptor, you don't have to worry about the VM lock. Then the Koichi, who is in charge of the raptor implementation, is working on the improving the raptor thread combination. So in near future we will enjoy the performance of the concurrency without removing the GVL. Next question. What are your hope to Ruby as it relates to the WebAssembly? So that since the last version, Ruby 3.2, so that we can compile Ruby virtual machine to WebAssembly. So that means that you can run the canonical Ruby virtual machine in the browser, but still we are on top of the WASM runtime. Then we have to compile the whole Ruby virtual machine on top of the WASM, which is kind of inefficient. So the recently the WASM provide the garbage collectors, and so that I just hope, I wish we can remove the garbage collector from the WASM implementation of the CRuby, then that we can rely on the WASM GC and some other stuffs. But I wish the situation and the performance of the Ruby on WASM will be improved. Question 3. Do you have any thoughts on the future of RBS? Do you think there is an opportunity to combine the work on RBS and Solbet? One thing, in the near future, as a core team, the RBS will be the canonical. So that some teams, some part of our members are working on the interchanging the information between the RBS and the RBI, which is the Solbet, the type information. so that so that we can share the type information between the solver and the steep or other RBS ecosystems. And then for the far distance future, so that we hope we can reduce the burden of the RBS because of the sufficiently smart compilers can estimate and guess the type from the runtime information, the static compile time information, so that you don't have to worry about the manual annotation of that. The last question: what do you think the future of Ruby will look like 10 years from now? Ah, I wish I wish the Ruby is Ruby, but performance is better. The developer experience is better, and the ecosystems grows, and we are making values and money, and hopefully I will be healthy and still working on Ruby. That's my dream. In 10 years, I will be what 68. But I hope I'm healthy and healthy enough to keep working on Ruby as a benevolent dictator of Ruby programming language. And besides that, as I said before, I'm glad if I can nourish, the train, the new generation of the candidates of my successors. Then, actually, right now, no one in the core teams is willing to become my successors, because if you want to work in design, if you are really really interested in the designing programming language, and you design your own programming language, and then the keeping programming language Ruby alive requires deep love of motivation, and then I'm lucky to have Ruby is my child, so that it is natural for me to to care about Ruby. But for my successors, Ruby is a kind of the stepchild. So it is harder to care them enough. So that, but if someone in the audience have some idea to become my successor, or the designer of the Ruby programming language, and if you are interested, just contact me. And I don't think I can promise you anything right now, but I think I can work with you and tell some tips about the language design or something like that. Yeah, I'm. Well, that's all, folks. And I really, really expect for the Ruby future of Ruby, and I believe our future is bright. So look at the bright side, not the dark side of the gem. Okay. Thank you for thank you for standing my poor language, and And thank you for joining, attending the Ruby conferences. And I hope I can physically join you next year Ruby conference. See ya.